Greetings, dear ones. It is Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. exactly in Wilmington, North Carolina, on the coast. It is fall. It is beautiful. Oh my goodness, I just need to take a deep sigh of relief. I have a few things to talk to you about this week, but one in particular. I wrote a long blog post about it a few days ago, to which I had like 18 comments, more comments than I've had in some time, because people were all riled up about the issue, which I'm about to tell you about. And I will include the link to that post as well as the one I did today below, with the links to all of my other things: Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, the works. But here's what happened. I follow someone on Patreon and YouTube that I dearly love. She is the kindest woman. I'm 66 and she's half my age. But that doesn't mean a person of that age cannot be a great teacher for me, and she is. She is a wonderful artist. And at the level that I pledged for her on Patreon, you are able to once a month have a private Q&A session with her. She tells you the date that you have to have your questions in, and then that night she just does it live. She just reads the questions and answers them. Her response to all of us was like 2 hours long, and it was fabulous. She is so good and so loving and so kind. And I will tell you, I only hesitated to tell you her name, not because I don't want you to find her and follow her, because she's well worth following, but I don't want anybody to get upset with her because of what she said to me, because you have to take it in context, and I'm going to explain that. And first of all, I apologize because I know I won't pronounce her name right. Her name is Fran. Her last name is spelled Meneses. Meneses. She and her husband are originally from Chile. They now live in New York, where her husband is getting a doctorate degree at Columbia University. She is also known all over the internet. She's got a big following on Instagram, YouTube, and a Patreon channel. She goes by the name Franerd, like Fran the Nerd. Franerd, Franerd, I believe it is. She is so well worth following. She has a gigantic YouTube channel. I have watched all of her YouTube videos, except the early ones that were in Spanish, which I don't speak. I love her dearly, and I want to make that very clear. I am still following her. I am still a patron of hers on Patreon, and will continue to be, because she is such a great teacher for me. But as a 66-year-old woman who has blogged for over 20 years, I blogged before blogging was a thing. I'm like one finger because I'm holding a crystal. I'm holding onto a crystal for dear life, praying that I will be able to bring decent content to you and that you will know how much I love you all. Okay, so about 22 years ago, I was running a shelter which I had started, a nonprofit shelter for disabled and unwanted parrots. And oh dear God Almighty, I'm so sorry. My nose itched so bad. If I didn't scratch it, I would have gone crazy the whole time. But I started a shelter for disabled and unwanted parrots. It was nonprofit. We had a shelter vet who kept an eye on things. We had 100 birds in our care. A number of those lived outside in a beautiful passive solar greenhouse situation that my husband had built at the time. I'm no longer married, but he's a dear man, and he built this beautiful aviary, kind of a greenhouse aviary for all kinds of finches and little doves to fly free in a beautiful, beautiful, safe enclosure. All of the parrots, the larger parrots, and that was anywhere from conures, cockatiels, ringnecks, everybody, all the way up to and through macaws and cockatoos. I have been born with a gift as a healer. Because of coming from a childhood of serious abuse, it was animals that I knew I could trust, which is why I live with animals today. And I started a website for our nonprofit shelter to help find homes for the dear babies that needed homes. And man, were those people screened carefully. You had to work hard to get a bird from me. And I had a lawyer who had a contract drawn up that if they couldn't keep the bird, it had to come back to me. And as I said, a shelter vet monitoring everybody really carefully. So it was a very serious thing. And I had birds shipped to me from all over the United States. And I mean as far as Hawaii, California, Texas, Florida, New York, other states, to my home/shelter in North Carolina. And these birds were the love of my life, and I committed myself to them completely. And one of our followers donated money for me to have a website. And I started a website for the birds to help receive donations for the birds, because we were always needing more cages, more food, vet expenses, and so on. When you adopted a bird from us, they went for no fee, and they came with a cage, with toys, with food, but you had to sign a legal contract. And we could check on them. And if they weren't taking care of the birds, they'd come back to us. So this dear patron at that time sent the money, and at that time, we're talking 1997, 1998, it was very expensive to get a website. But we got the website, and blogging, as I said, was not a thing yet then. But I did what really is a blog, meaning that I wrote every single day and changed the content on the cover of the website, what you landed on, the landing page, because I wanted to tell people about the birds, the individual birds, how they progressed, how they were healed. Birds that came to us saying they were not manageable and ready to be put down became loving pets. I just sat with them for hours, whispering to them, and then holding them. My love for them was so deep. And that website and that blog brought a lot of people to us. We found homes for them. People donated money to help them pay the vet bills and whatever. So that's how I started blogging. And in the years not long after that, Blogger came along. And you could have a free blog on Blogger. And I had a number of different blogs, little blogs about this and that. I think I was trying to find that place in myself that connected with what exactly I should be doing. And that happened in 2007. In 2007, I started a blog on Blogger called Maitri's Heart. It was all about my life. Everything from the animals that I lived with. The shelter closed when I got a divorce because it was at our home. And it was a very painstaking time with my vet, my helpers, and I to find homes for everyone. 5 parrots stayed with me. But I loved Blogger. I loved a handful of little different blogs that I created as I tried to find my way. But in 2007, I started Maitri's Heart, which dealt not only with my everyday life, but most specifically, I was by then a middle-aged woman, divorced, living alone, dealing with ongoing, serious, multiple mental health diagnoses. I was an artist. I was a fiber artist. At that time, I had an Etsy shop selling hand-spun yarns and big, amazing, if I say so myself, tapestries and whimsical creatures and whatnot. Unfortunately, in 2014, my house burned down, and I lost everything, including most of all of my fiber art supplies. So that ended Etsy. But a few months before that, in 2013, I paid someone to start up a WordPress website for me because I'd been using Blogger for so long. I didn't know how to use WordPress. And by then, my blog on Blogger was 6 years old, and there was so much content there that I didn't want to lose. I didn't know how to move it. So I hired someone to start my WordPress website, which is still there today. It's called www.maitrilibelul.com. And the landing page on my website is my Maitri's Heart blog. Everything was transferred in summer of 2013 to WordPress. So it's all there in the archives from the beginning, and I carried on from there. Today, in 2020, we're actually at the beginning of our 14th year. I always say we're because I have a large following and I'm used to communicating with these people, and it feels like a we're and not an I. But as I sit here now, early on, October 2020, I have 2 million, and very shortly it'll be 18,000, 2,018,000 visits to this blog. I love it dearly. It has been at the center of everything I've done. I have felt that it was a way that I could build an audience. I kept doing it because I loved doing it. I loved the communication and the engagement with readers. And it just had my heart. I'm a writer since I was 9 years old, writing in a little journal under the forsythia bushes outside is what saved me through years of terrible sexual abuse. So writing has always been the thing for me. Fast forward to a week ago. In Friends Patreon, which is fabulous. It's wonderful. She said it was time to submit our questions. And it's okay if you write her like a long thing, and I did. I told her I was 66 years old. She's 32. And I've been a lifelong writer. I'm an artist. I've been doing the Maisie art, which is now becoming, I started that. It'll be 2 years in January, and it's becoming a book. And because I am a disabled senior citizen living on Social Security, I had been encouraged for the last few years to start a Patreon, and I was too afraid. But, finally, it's not even about the fact that making extra money will make my life easier, and I'll be able to buy the art supplies I need to do my work, do these videos, do all the work that I need to do to get Maisie's work out into the world. And if this is the first time you're watching my video, I'm sorry. Maisie's world is, Maisie is a character that I draw that is actually my alter ego. And her little dog, Daisy, is my Molly's alter ego. I adopted Molly in January 2019. She is a tiny little one-eyed mixed girl. She's part Chihuahua and part Corgi. Apparently they call it a Chigi, which I never knew was a thing. She's the love of my life. She's usually in my lap. She's playing in her bed now with her toy. Otherwise, you'll see her in some of these videos. But I started drawing Maisie and Daisy a year and a half ago, more than a year and a half ago now. And a whole world exploded inside me. I shared the paintings everywhere and people fell in love with Maisie. She's kind of a funky, cattywampus sort of a person. If you go to my website, again, www.maitrilibelul.com, you will see some Maisie art. And 33 of Maisie's paintings are at Society 6, where you can get prints, mugs, t-shirts, tote bags, stickers, journals, everything in the world with Maisie's art on it. That's society6.com/Maisie's World. Again, all of that will be below. But the reason that Maisie's World is so important is because Maisie, like myself, is agoraphobic. I'm bipolar. I have other mental health issues, very well controlled with medication and therapy at this point, but I am agoraphobic for 20 years. I did not leave my house before COVID, except on very rare occasions, and I had to be medicated to do that, like to go to the doctor or get groceries. And so this thing dawned on me. Because people have followed me for a long time. I have 5,000 followers to my regular Facebook page. Maisie's got a page. I have a couple of other pages. I've got thousands of followers on Facebook, almost 1,000 now on Instagram. And as I said, over 2 million on my blog. So people were following Maisie and kind of fell in love with her. And I realized it wasn't just, I know my art does not look like a professional artist, but my work does look like something whimsical. I call it fantasy fiction memoir. And because Maisie and I are both agoraphobic, it's about the two of us. I have done it too. You can see into my cozy room, kind of behind me, with the picture of the pug over the fireplace and the pink bookshelves in the bright yellow room. My studio is a bright sort of sea green with twinkly lights all around. In other words, for Maisie and I, not leaving our homes, our own four walls, we have both created a world that is beautiful, joyful, colorful, full of life and art and animals and good food and twinkly lights and everything, and a big garden. And so what I wanted to do was to encourage people who think, but I'm this old, but I don't have very much money, but I'm disabled, but I have mental health issues, but I have whatever, and they've given up. They've given up on their self, their lives, their dreams. And Maisie's World is a place for people to realize that no matter what their limitations, perceived or real, they can still create a life of happiness and joy wherever they are. And Maisie is here to help spread that message. So I write a lot about Maisie and her world on my blog, along with my own story, how I deal ongoing, as I said last week, with doing my work with my mental health challenges. It is doable. And I'm 66 and on Social Security, and I can achieve my dreams. It is doable. I am physically disabled. I now have to wear, I took it off for the video, but one of these pendants I have to wear all the time. I've fallen and I can't get up. Remember that commercial? Well, I wear this around my neck. It is actually what's called a fall pendant because my feet are so disabled. If I fell and I couldn't get up under other circumstances, a fluky kind of a thing, I push that blue button and emergency help is on the way. But because both of my feet are so disabled, I could fall, hit my head, and be knocked out. I'm here alone with my animals, but this particular pendant, because of the way it would swing as I fell, it would send a signal to them and emergency help would be on the way. I just, as an aside, I have no money doing this, but if you have an older parent or grandparent, or you are older yourself, I highly recommend getting one if you are at risk in any way, because I have fallen and wasn't able to get up. And I laid in the dirt in my garden outside for 30 minutes before I was finally able to get a hold of anybody that could help me. I couldn't get up. I was laying in the dirt, banged up, bruised, bleeding, hurting, terrified. Finally, a couple of neighbors I was able to get a hold of who lived down the street did come and help me, but it was right after that I got the fall pendant. And there are all kinds out there. I'm not a representative of mine, so I won't tout its name, but I'm very happy with it. So anyway, I write about all these things on my blog, and I have a lot of followers, and people comment, and I answer them, and it's been a beautiful thing. So once again, I will loop back to my question to Fran. How do I, as a disabled senior citizen who is 66 years old, living only on Social Security, but has a pretty decent social media following and over 2 million visits to my blog, how do I build my Patreon? Because I'm just starting. I'm just barely into my second month. I really need the income, and I really want to get Maisie's message out to the world. That's the most important thing. So she answered me. She took a lot of time. Her answer was long and detailed and loving, so loving and so kind. And she apologized even before she started to answer, because I think she knew what she was going to say would hurt my feelings. And it did, not because of her, but just taking this information in. She said, blogging is no longer a thing. It used to be. It used to be a good way to build an audience. It used to be a good way to get paying clients from devoted followers. But the thing is, I have seen in alignment with what she said. In the last year or two, where I used to get 30 or 40 comments after a post, I can tell you that now, 14 years and over 2 million visits in, I can see my counter, which I didn't put on there, and I don't have anything to do with it other than I glance at it once in a while just to see how things are going. I get at least several hundred views a month, and almost nobody comments. So when Fran said blogging is no longer a thing, I was crushed, because I always saw blogging as the thing that built my audience And the social media platforms were something that added to that. What Fran said is that people have all but stopped blogging. She told me no one read blogs, which is not my experience. And that's what I want to know from you. Do you read blogs? Is blogging a thing? But she said if I wanted to build my Patreon audience and make money, I really needed to have a YouTube channel, which I had already started. This is a tiny little fledgling channel, but I had already started it at that point. I should do a podcast. I've been planning a podcast for many months. It's about to start to open up. It will be 5 nights a week for my patrons on Patreon, and 1 night a week I will put it for free, public, just like I do these public videos. So I was doing a number of the things that she said, but this is ringing in my ears. Blogging is no longer a thing. And as somebody who, even though I'm a writer and a teacher and a designer and a photographer and an artist, I am mainly a writer. Writing is my first, most solid lifetime thing. And so I wrote about this. I had more comments after this blog than I have had in a very long time. I wrote very long answers to the people who wrote in because people were upset. Yes, blogging is a thing. Blogging is the only thing I follow. I don't like videos. I don't like podcasts. Okay, they're fine for some things, but I prefer the written word. I prefer blogs, blah, blah, blah. But then, what I realized is Fran was right in her way, in that, yes, there are still people reading blogs, creating blogs, loving blogs. But I never made any money with blogs. I had a tip jar on my website if somebody wanted to throw me a buck. I mean, I always thought of blogging kind of as like busking. You know, the people in the street playing their guitar, and if people liked the music, they'd throw a buck in the guitar case, whatever. I always thought that people would, you know, if they appreciated it, and I had very long running people that followed my blog and left comments and said I'd help them so much and whatever, but still very, very few people ever made a donation. So, after I wrote the blog post and answered a flurry of comments from people who were just saying, you can't stop, you can't stop. It's like they don't want me to stop, but they're not supporting me financially either. They're never putting a tip in the tip jar. But it's not their fault. It's like blogging is not a thing that was designed to make money. So the occasional, and I mean very occasional person has given me a little donation, which I have appreciated more than I can say. But it has never been, nor will it ever be, something that supports me. Or any of us. Fran was right about that. So it's not that blogging isn't a thing as much as if you have to know that she's going from the question I asked her, how do I make money on Patreon? How do I build an audience? Well, it's not going to be with blogs. Because those people follow you on the blog. Very few have followed. I have Patreon followers, but very few follow me from the blog. Some have told me outright on Facebook that they will not follow Patreon. They don't like their payment system. They don't like this. They don't like that. They will not do Patreon. That's okay. What I came to finally was a peace in my heart about the fact that because I am who I am, and I am a writer, and I have been blogging for a long time, and I know that I help people. I will continue blogging, but only once or twice a week. 'Twas the day I blog every single day. Well, that will never happen again. Because no matter how much people like it, they don't support it financially. And that's okay. It's a blog thing, you know? Blogging is a thing. It's not a money thing. YouTube is just starting. In all of my links below, there's a link to a tip jar at PayPal. If anyone along the line feels that my videos are of value or helpful and could drop a little money in the tip jar, it would help me immensely. I would deeply appreciate it. It is not necessary. This is a free public YouTube channel. But if I have helped you, or you can join Patreon. Patreon, I repeat as I did last week, it is a women-only community because with my issues of abuse and terrible things I've gone through in my life, that is how I feel most comfortable in a small, private community. It's only women. But this YouTube channel and my blog and Society 6 and Facebook and everything else that I do, men and women can take part in. So dear men, please know that I am not having anything against you. I am at 66 and having led a life that makes me only feel comfortable in that way, only doing Patreon for women. But if you all could help me, you can read my blog to be supported and loved and cared about and cherished. And there's a tip jar there if you want to use it. If you want to join Patreon, if you're a woman, you can see the blog post that I did today, and I'll put this link down below too, was all about how Patreon isn't just for you supporting me with, I only have one tier, it's only $5 a month. It's not just about you helping me financially. I want to support you. I want to help you find and create and live your dreams right alongside me as I'm working at mine. And I provide a lot of content on Patreon. Videos. Soon there's going to be a podcast of journal lessons, art projects, gentle, easy for beginners, all kinds of things, inspirational quotes, books. I provide all kinds of things for my patrons, but mostly I want to create a safe space for women to come together, to explore their creativity and go for their dreams right along me as I'm creating Maisie's world. So I'm just trying to balance it all. But I'm going to end here. Oh, gracious, it's 33 minutes. I do apologize. Most of these are going to be 30 minutes. There's nothing but me talking here, so you can just listen to it like a podcast. Do the dishes and you can listen, you know. But I want to know, what do you think? Is blogging still a thing? Do you read blogs? Would you drop a little something in a tip jar if an ongoing blog helped you? Or is it just not a thing in terms of something that can help you move your other work forward? I am asking you for comments, for suggestions, for ideas, feelings, thoughts, whatever. I would love to read in the comments below, and I will of course answer you what you think. Is blogging still a thing?